Testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Are you looking for more effective ways of handling the Horde? Are your base designs stuck in a rut and looking for new concepts to try? Or are you just having difficulties getting your build to work? If you responded with yes, then you've come to the right place. And if no, you can just skip to the end to watch Taco and I have a friendly-ish competition. See? Something for everyone. Welcome, survivors. This is Eerie Knight of the Pseudo Posse, and nothing gets me more excited than building, testing, iterating, and improving. I want to share all of that joy with you and bring you all along for the ride as we dive into some of my most favorite, most used building tips. In our previous building tips video, the 100 plus essential Horde-based build tips and tricks to dominate 7 days to die, I covered many tips in a concise manner, trying to give you all the major details for each tip. However, some important nuances and building strategies were kind of lost in translation for some of the more advanced tips. It would have taken way too long, so consider this video that remedy, a deeper dive into several of the most advanced and useful tips from that video, plus a few that aren't featured in the original. I'll include a link to that video in the description below in case you want to check it out. I figure the best way to do a deep dive into these tips are to showcase them in a single, complex, wildly impractical build that will demonstrate everything I want to cover. Disclaimer, this base is by no means meant to be used in and of itself, rather just a convenient way to dive into all the tips. This way you can pick and choose the elements you like from the entire build and incorporate them into your own personal designs. Or of course, you can build something convoluted yourself if that's your thing. The tips won't be in any particular order, they'll come into play as they are needed. I'll also go over my strategies for debugging a base that just doesn't work, as I am sure you all have built a base at one point that when Horde time came, it didn't work as you expected. Maybe they didn't follow your path. Maybe they beat on your walls instead, or randomly started digging. Finding the flaws can sometimes not be super obvious, so I'll showcase how I go about finding them and fixing them. With that preface out of the way, let's get started. Time to choose our location. As I want to build off from a cliff, here's a suitable spot. Scratch that. This is a bit too narrow for what I want to do. This will work better. As you can see, I've already gotten started, just some pillars with a 9x9 square perimeter. My vision for this particular build is to construct a series of cube compartments with different sort of obstacle in each one for zombies to traverse. I don't have an exact concrete plan beyond that basic concept. We're just going to feel it out as we progress. For our compartment, I want to make a perfect cube, so all sides of this particular one will be 9x9x9. To differentiate it between all the cubes, I want to alternate between different sizes so we can easily see the outlines of each compartment. The size of this next one is going to be 7x7x7, which will require us to support it with our 9x9 structure. Because I want to create a visual barrier between each cube, I don't want to use cube shapes here. Instead, I'll use these double poles to form the foundation of our 7x7 cube. I could have used smaller or less obvious shape that would hide the fact that it is providing support and make it appear as if it is floating, but I like the look of it. Directly over these, I'll place our next cube, but we have a problem. As this entire structure is only supported in the 4 corners, you're putting too much weight on our double poles, which aren't directly supported to the ground themselves. Not to worry, we don't need to run another pillar column to the ground. I will instead support off the main structure while also giving our cube structure some definition. I'll place some more double poles along the sides to add additional support. It won't be the same level of support as you'd get from a direct ground connection, but it will provide enough to support the top. I like to try and hide ugly supports with aesthetics so you can't exactly tell it is meant for support. I'll be using this tactic multiple times throughout the building of the structure. There, now we can freely build on top and complete it. Alas, for our next cube, which is also going to be another small one, it will require additional ground support as we won't be able to build another stack of cubes using the prior approach. Because this cube is not directly supported from the ground and only partially connected to the existing structure via the vertical double poles, this side is technically overhanging with little support. Thus, it will be extremely vulnerable to collapse as I build. I'll use a similar trick as we did previously and place some poles down here while also maintaining the visual differentiation between both cubes. I'm now ready to construct our another 9x9x9 on top, so now we have the reverse problem. We need to support a larger structure over a smaller one. Fortunately, same solution. We'll line the top surface with more poles so we can place our cube perimeter on the edges. That looks pretty clean with sharp edges and definition. Blends in blend well together, and you'd think just by looking at it that it's just an aesthetic choice, not a functional one. And from there, we can build the rest of it. Nothing new for the next set of cubes, just the same thing, rinse and repeat, employing the same supporting tricks for each cube. Our last two cubes will be considerably larger and will connect directly to the ground at the top level. Again, the same principles apply to their construction and will be done on a larger scale. And there we have it, the skeleton structure of our base. Like I said at the beginning, each cube is going to be a different obstacle which will present some major spatial restrictions as they need to fit inside the very tight areas. So it will require us to be as efficient as possible in our pathing design. Since I plan on standing in the cube furthest from the cliff on the bottom, the first 9x9x9 compartment we built, I do foresee an issue, and this is going to be a problem for any large base. Zombies will spawn at a range of 40 or so blocks from the player during the horde. Ideally, it would be great if they could spawn on top of the cliff and they just walk through the cubes towards me, but that won't happen as it is too far away. Instead, they'll spawn below me on the ground where all my supports are located. If the path toward the player is too long, even if direct, they will still prefer to beat on the structure instead of running along your lengthy path. Zombies are just lazy at heart, so we need to trick them into doing that extra cardio. This next tip is essential. We need to make it easy enough for them by shortening the path as much as possible so they won't beat on our supports. A little foreshadowing, but this will come into play later, so keep an eye open. As such, I am going to make some ladders down from our entrance, and because the cliff is in the way to build all the way down, I will make a platform in which I'll connect some stairs to the ground. Nothing fancy for the stairs, we'll use the terrain to provide some natural stability for the stairway and extend that to the ground. The reason for this positioning is I hope it will be close enough for zombies to path from spawn to the cubes, and also close enough for zombies falling through any cube to the ground to run back up instead of beating on the supports. If the stairs are too far, they may seek to destroy the surroundings. Always remember this when building your bases. It is essentially the same issue as the previous tip with the path being too long. But if you are dropping zombies far away from your main entrance, you will potentially need a discrete route back to your base. Here I am dropping right by my main staircase, so I should be okay. Another thing to remember, a major weakness of ladders is that dogs have never learned how to climb them. And since they don't have a way up, they'll be satisfied beating away at your supports. So make sure if you only use ladders to lead zombies to your path, that you have a way of handling dogs, whether it is by killing them yourself or setting up traps to do so. However, we will not have good line of sight to the ground, so I'll give them a good way up. To support our doggy staircase without direct supports to the ground, we will support from the cliffside. We don't want to create a path to the cliffside for the dogs or other zombies to cross and beat on the sand, collapsing our stairs. So we're going to use unpathable shape like the pillar 0.025 meter block. Zombies won't walk over them because reasons, so they make an excellent way to support structures off from something stable. In this case, that is the cliff. But I've also used these to provide support from building off of POIs or from a grounded structure I've built myself to support a suspended path. For our first obstacle, I want to design a path that will drop some of the zombies down to the ground. Again, the stairs are positioned to incentivize the zombies to immediately climb up. Since the height from our first obstacle will be much greater than 11 blocks above the ground, zombies are not likely to beat on the structure. But as Cautious Pancake demonstrated in his original video, link in the description below, it is not an absolute zero chance that zombies won't rage on the supports after falling. To provide some further deterrence, I will place some railings extending over the edges to prevent them from falling next to the supports. While it won't completely eliminate beating, making them run further is always a good thing. If I ever have zombies falling near supports, I'll always try to protect them in some way. Here I am trying to drop them further. Other times, I've used the wedge narrow slide to gently guide their fall away from the supports. And of course, you can always use other anti-rage strategies such as water and electro traps. We will use the 0.0125 meter centered shape for the first obstacle itself. This block is well suited for dropping zombies, and depending on the length of this pillar pathway, we can control the amount of zombies that make it across. Make sure you don't place rows of them directly connected to each other, as it seems to break the zombie pathing. That is why I put a gap in between two pillar paths. If you make it long enough, all zombies will drop. However, we want some to pass to make it to the other obstacles, so I won't make it too long. In fact, after we have done some testing later on, we might need to shorten it a bit more if too many fall. In general, no matter which shapes you choose to drop zombies, varying the length will control the zombie flow. There are exceptions to the rule, but it is a safe rule to follow. Next, I'll construct this little platform here since we are reaching the limits of our structural stability. Ultimately, this path is going to wind around and lead straight into the first of our 7x7x7 cubes. For this next segment, I want to force zombies to crawl. This can be achieved by creating a less than 2 meter high corridor. The purpose of forcing them to crawl is that they conveniently present their heads as easy targets. So to us on the far side, we can grab a rifle and shoot at them from afar if we so desire. I think that height will just about does the trick. But now our next problem. We have no structural stability and can't support it from the ground as our pillar obstacles are right below us. Since we need to make the top portion of our crawling corridor anyway, we can extend that from our stable structure, the main cube, and attach it to the lower path to provide stability. I'll use half cubes for the top roof to create a 1.5 meter opening. However, one issue I foresee is that if we make the attached support completely solid like a full cube or even a plate block, it will enclose the zombies in, making it a potential target if zombies cluster up a bit too much in the hallway, especially if you aren't actively shooting. So to provide support while remaining open, I'll rotate these pole blocks that extend from the top to the suspended pathway below in such a way that they create an open gap. With that all said and done, it looks pretty sharp. We essentially have a slightly raised curb on either side while also being well supported and open. That way, they are much less likely to get hit by zombies. Always tuck away important supports. These are vital, and if they break, our path is broken. We need to provide support that is directly next to the zombies, which I usually try to avoid, but since we cannot here, the next best strategy is to make it as unhittable as possible. Our crawling path extends into the first cube, and now it is time to transition up to the top cube. I'll route the path using some stairs up to the next level and make a railing floor just so we can see the action better. The next obstacle zombies will need to traverse is what I like to call the windy path. Zombies have difficulty shifting direction too rapidly, and thus we can trick them into falling by giving them some zigzags. Start with a set of stairs and a path that ultimately leads to a rotated ramp shape. Recall that earlier tip in which we reinforced our stairs from the cliffside? We need to reinforce again this time from our own structure. We don't want zombies to path towards the supporting cube, so I'll use the same pillar shapes again to both support and not present a pathway. Back to our path, we will place a set of ramps such that they form an angled pathway. At the end of the angled segment, I like to place a straight pillar section at least 3 blocks long. Though I'd prefer to make it at least 5, but since we are short on room, that will have to do. The narrower the block, the better, though I've used pillar 0.5 meter shapes in the past, which still works incredibly well. I'll go slightly narrower here with the 0.375 meter pillar. The reason you want to make the pillar section at least 3 long is because we need to put in another ramp section heading back parallel to the first ramp section. And if they are too close together, zombies can simply jump between both ramps, skipping the pillars. We need them to try and run around so they will fall. Normally when I do this design, I'll make multiple ramp sections, but since we are tight on real estate, I can only use 2. Alright, so here's our final layout. We walk along past all the ramp sections, up some stairs to provide enough headspace for zombies to follow the path underneath, and we hit a bit of a blockade when trying to go down the stairs into the next section. I ultimately decided to replace the full cube block with this 3/4 cube variant, which provides just enough headspace to clear the stairs. Because we are in another 7x7x7 cube, we are even more confined and need to drop the zombies down below to the next cube in a very tight space. The most efficient way to do this given the space is the wedge narrow slide, but not configured how I usually do it as in this build here, where they are running along the length of the slide and fall down. Instead, they will go over them instead of across. Zombies still see the slide in this direction as a path. I'll start with the wedge narrow low, then middle, then high, and finally the tip. The path will continue from the slide directly to the cube edge via the pillar 0.025 meter half side centered shape, oriented such that it forms a gap between the shape and the slide. This will provide an opening for zombies to fall through. When making a large slide like in our infinite slide video, having them fall a long enough distance basically gives them no chance to make it over the gap. Given how confined we are, however, some zombies might make it over and skip the next 2 cubes, but many will fall, so that is a bit of a sacrifice we need to make, which I'm okay with. A potential concern I have with my cube layouts are the fact that they may try to simply run from cube to cube and avoid the path. Because everything is so interconnected, an accidental path may inadvertently be formed, so I will do all I can to prevent that from happening. This can be a danger in many base designs, so it is important to keep that in mind. As you can see in my tower bridge base, after the hatch doors open breaking the path, zombies are not supposed to walk over the pillar. Instead, they should run to the other side to the second hatch door path. However, these pillars inadvertently created a shorter path. Thus, those lazy zombies just follow this easier path than what I originally designed. To prevent the crossing between these two cubes, I will have a gap in the railing floor and will place additional railings all around to stop them from walking across. Always put up a physical barrier or have a gap between sections of your base you don't want them to travel across. Ideally, do both. I think the windy path and the wedge slide section should be fine, as the only way to reach the wedge path is through the windy path. There is nothing that leads from the floor to the slide. We are now about halfway through our convoluted path, and before we continue, I think it is a good point to test out the path. As we have more to build, it could be more difficult to determine any issues if we do everything at the end. I would recommend, if building a large base, that you incrementally stop and test with a few zombies just to make sure they will do what you expect up to that point. I'll spawn a zombie right next to the stairs of our first obstacle and unleash her. Okay, she was a bit confused but ran across the pillars, up the stairs, and ran down for some reason, then repeated. Seems like she is having trouble entering the crawling section. Let's try a biker. Okay, he immediately falls on the pillars. At least it looks like our stairs and ladders back up work. That's good, but again, he falls right down. Let's try someone slimmer. Nope, that won't do. I'll just put him right at the top. Yeah, tumbling right down. What if I replace that front block with something a bit thinner, like the cube quarter meter? Well, that looks like it did the trick. Awesome. Crawling on through, up the stairs, and completely running past the windy stairs to beat on the adjacent cube. Well, that's a problem. I think the most straightforward way we can prevent this is to try placing up barricades. If they feel this direct route they are trying to take is too easy, they'll just go that way despite not having to beat on anything by following the path. So let's make it too hard for them. I'll throw up some glass plates on either side of the cube and put some railings in on the windy path side. Alright, let's start back around the crawl space and let it rip. Interesting, she is still trying to beat through the cube wall. Perhaps blocking off the sides as well will deter her from beating through. Spawning another zombie unfortunately leads to the same thing. Albeit she ran up the stairs this time, then started beating on the wall. I'll add yet another barrier, remove some railings so they won't get stuck behind there. And still zombie beating. Adding back the railings doesn't help either. Perhaps since I used plate glass, they still saw a path between the plate glass on either side. I am now going to replace that with full cube glass blocks. I will place these everywhere along the sides. However, the zombie is still persistently trying to bust through the other side. Perhaps placing the path directly by the barrier is part of the problem. I'll adjust the path such that it does not touch the barrier between the cubes. This will require shortening the first ramp section, but that is a small sacrifice to make if we can solve the problem. And with the path removed from the barrier, I can also better reinforce the wall with more railings. And yet, spawning another zombie leads to the same thing. Maybe I have been thinking about this the wrong way. The path itself could be broken, and thus they have no choice but to try and bust through the wall. The barrier itself should be strong enough to prevent them from beating through. Let me quickly redesign the wedge narrow slide. I had previously started with the wedge narrow low. Instead, I'll start with the tips and then lows, middles, highs. I don't think that will make a difference, but I want to make it exactly how I've done it in the past with previous builds. Spawning a zombie directly ahead of the slide causes her to fall down the slide, which is correct. Spawning on the other side leads to beating, so something is happening before this point. If my next tip isn't clear by now, let me state it directly. Sometimes fixing a pathing problem is simple, just like adding more reinforcement. But if the obvious solution doesn't work, there isn't really a need to keep trying the seemingly obvious approach. Instead, start doing what I just did. Test out independent sections of the path to see where things are breaking down. Spawning a zombie on the slide side works fine. Spawning on the windy path side did not. However, if I then move over to the windy side, the zombie is pathing along perfectly, which immediately tells me they cannot cross over to the other side. Removing the 3/4 meter block allows her to run through to the other side. Even though I could easily walk through it myself, apparently to the zombie, it was not an open path. Replacing it with a half block is just wide enough that she'll still pass through. The takeaway from this exercise is if you are having issues with your build, position yourself at various points along your zombie path and pinpoint exactly where the issue is happening. Identify it and fix it. While I was working on this extended testing, I've also been thinking about how to do the rest of the build, and I had some inspiration. It would be really nice to have some extended time shooting at the zombies in the crawl section. So I want to build another crawl section below the slide that is identical vertical and perfectly aligned with the other section, so I have another opportunity to shoot at zombies if they get this far. This is what I'll do here, so same deal, exactly how we constructed the last one. In this cube, I want to do a more simplistic obstacle, though still pretty effective, though not as much as the slide or the windy path. I call this the pillar jump. The idea of this is zombies will need to repeatedly jump on top of vertical pillars and run across 0.0125 meter pillars before needing to jump again. Use the full length 0.0125 meter pillars at lower levels, as we want them to get a bit higher before falling down. Otherwise, they'll cluster up too much and start beating. At higher pillars, replace these with the half side centered variant. Not much else to this one. If you want to make the path even harder for zombies, you can replace the full pillar vertical shapes with a narrow pillar like the 0.5 meter or smaller. What's nice about this design is that it can be made into any layout. The pillars can go straight or crisscross over each other, or increase the distance between pillars to have more gaps from the half side centered shapes. Very configurable and can be used in a variety of ways. Another sort of tweak I want to make is to move the wedge narrow slide over. I originally was not going to have another crawl section here, and since it needs to be in the middle, it is directly underneath the slide. I want more zombies to fall and not land on top of the crawl corridor, so I'll move the slide over. Like I said a while back, it is okay if some zombies make the shortcut and don't fall down, but I still want to maximize the number that do, so they can go through the crawling corridor. For our last obstacle right above our heads, it is a simple plate quarter path leading down to our position. Gaps are formed by these shapes, so the hope is for zombies to potentially fall down to the ground. Like the pillar 0.0125 meter side centered, these are effective shapes for getting zombies to fall. They can be made more effective by putting bars for zombies to jump over, which will force them to fall through the gaps. But I don't mind if more make it across at this juncture. Now, I do have a fear that they will beat on the supports instead of coming back up if the path is too long for them. We'll cross that bridge if that comes to pass. If we place our platform about here-ish, we are at a good elevation to get good line of sight on the crawl path. Once they make it to here, I'll protect myself with scaffolds and double poles so I can melee or shoot through them. I'll also place fence posts to help me dispatch with them and protect my barrier. Placing them on the side puts them too close to harm's way, so since we are tight on space, I'll go with vertically aligned fence posts. We'll need to do one for each block on the platform to completely cover it. While it requires more, it is much safer. I'll generally use vertically aligned posts in these types of instances. Naturally, they can cover more area if placed along a ladder. One of the last things I want to do is to replace all the supporting pillars. I initially placed those to show you all what that looks like, but there is a nicer looking way. The pillar 0.025 meter outside corner shape was added in Alpha 21, and it is one of the smallest blocks in the game. By making the supports as close to the terrain color as possible, we can use these shapes to support the entire base, making it appear more like it is floating. Damn, that looks so much sharper and visually stunning. First, I want to rule out the possibility that something is broken in the path before we try the obvious fix, as in putting some giant set of stairs from the ground up. We will use my previous tip in debugging pathing issues and try each section to ensure it works. It looks like there is an issue below the wedge narrow slide, and instead of climbing up to the second crawl section, he is running straight across to try and break through. Removing some floor railings didn't resolve it. If I moved myself closer up to the top of the pillar jump section, I see the same behavior. Since I know the crawl section works, it must be too easy for them to cross over and beat on the wall. By removing all of the railings in this section and blocking off with some railings, the biker finally goes through the path. If I try to spawn a zombie on the ground now, still the same problem. Since we know our path above is working now, it definitely is the issue of the path being too long from the ground up. Thus, we need to shorten it. As a quick test to ensure this fix will work, I'll turn off physics, allowing me to just build all the way up with no supports, and I'll connect it right to the stairs. However, spawning in a zombie results in the same behavior of running over to the support directly supporting my cube. The path must be too long still. They really are adverse to cardio. I'll make it slightly shorter by connecting the path from the stairs we just made directly to the first obstacle. Perform another test and bam! Just cutting out that bit of distance is now short enough for zombies to follow the full loop. Excellent. Time to bring back Taco. Spawn in. All the radiated. All right.
Ready?
Ready? Who are you gonna win? Who's gonna win?
I pick Party Girl.
Party Girl? You think Party Girl's got what it takes?
Yes, I always love Party Girl.
Wow. Is it her boobies?
Yes.
There she is.
Hi, Party Girl, you have to go. Hey, why you put her in the center?
She's the center of attention.
No, you put the one right at the end of the ladder. Now, go.
No. She's not getting a shortcut.
No.
She's not getting a no shortcut. No
Shortcut.
No shortcut.
Go.
No shortcut.
Oh, please.
No.
Pretty
Okay.
please.
I am going to place my bet.
Hey, at least you put her in the front. Why you put Arlene in the front?
No.
That's totally
Random. I just put them in like alphabetical order or whatever.
No.
I'm gonna bet on the white because he's closest to the back. All right, get on your marks. Get set. Go. And they're running up the stairs.
Of course, Arlene. Arlene in the front.
Arlene, you cheater. Fourth.
I bet Arlene now.
No, you can't change your bet. Good thing I didn't pick him. He's. Bye.
Go check others. Where's my party girl?
All right, there's Arlene. She's.
I know
She made
Arlene.
it across the pillars. Oh, no, those two are down. Arlene is going. Oh, Party Girl made it across.
Yes. At least she's in the front.
Arlene is still in the front.
My party
The
girl.
Party Girl's gaining on her.
Yeah.
Oh, Arlene fell.
Yes. Go check
No.
Arlene.
Here comes Party Girl. Oh, she fell
Oh, this is so damn effective. Go
It
top.
is.
Go top.
too. They need to like collect a bit more, just so like someone can like jump on top of another
Yeah.
red's head. Where are the rest of the bunch?
Your white cannot even make it here. Go check my party girl. Go up.
I'm checking on the others.
God, this is so effective.
It is. Oh,
Oh.
is that him? He came back. What a dark horse! he like ran off into the middle of nowhere and then came. Watch him win it all.
This part is so effective.
Oh,
I should use it somehow in my base.
it's pretty damn effective. Now, he's content to just beat on that block. Where are the rest of them? How are the rest of them doing? The rest of them can't even like get past the pillars over here.
Yeah.
They keep falling. I might need to extend the length of kind of like the flat part a bit just to get a couple of them more to cross, because some of them keep falling like around here-ish.
Yeah.
Just to get a couple. I don't want all of them to just drop down that here. So I think I'm to make it a bit easier.
Where's your white?
He can't make it across.
Yes, I won this round. Look at my party girl.
Everybody can't make it past us though.
Party girl. Wow, this is so effective.
It is. None of them gonna make it. Just like single zombies, you just can't make it across.
Look at my party girl. She's so damn.
Ducky?
No, she's so damn good. She's in the front here. Top here.
Top tier?
Where's your white? Show me your white.
Why is
Not
oh,
even
none of
here.
the spiders made it across yet.
Not really nice, honey.
I looked around, I didn't see them.
Yeah. So yours is completely failed.
Apparently.
I finally won a bet with.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. There he is. He's just still dropping down. He's running back up.
Disappointing. I won.
Okay, you win that round. You win that round. Who is you betting on this round?
That sucker. That one.
Steve?
No, this.
Yeah, Steve.
Okay, Steve.
I was gonna pick Steve because he ran away and then came back.
No, I picked Steve.
Okay. Well, since you abandoned Party Girl, I'll pick her up.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
you got
make
that
another
right. You
girl.
got that right.
Why, you love her movies? Look at that!
Ow! That was absolutely fun, guys. I hope you all took something away from this video and gained a deeper insight into extremely useful building tips, as well as the process flow for figuring out stubborn issues in your base designs. It really is a matter of standing in different spots and seeing where the zombie AI breaks. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this type of content and want to see more of it, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and you can be a part of the great little community we've been growing. A special shout out to all of our awesome patrons whose generosity is funneled back into the channel to make it better for the rest of you. On that note, this is Eerie Knight signing off. See you all in the next one.